Hello, welcome to Creative Catchup,
a podcast where myself, Natasha Newton,
artist and illustrator, and me, Mel Chadwick,
illustrator and designer, will be chatting about running a creative business.
Each episode we'll be diving into a different topic that has come up in our own creative practice.
We'll be sharing our experiences, both the ups and downs, struggles and successes,
and hopefully give some advice that you'll also find useful. So join us for episode 7 as we chat about creating in a pandemic,
how things have changed for us and what we're doing differently.
Hi Natasha.
Hi Mel.
I think this is the first podcast that I'm recording with you and I'm no longer in quarantine.
Yeah, Mel has freedom again.
Hooray!
Huge relief.
Yeah, today we're going to be chatting about how things have changed in our own practices, and I think both Natasha and I have experienced quite a lot of changes to how we do things because of lockdown and restrictions. And today we just want to chat about it, share what's been going on, and we'd love for you guys to also tell us how things have changed for you. So make sure that you comment or send us some messages letting us know how things are different for your art practice. Okay, so we're going to start just by diving in and asking each other questions on what has changed for us. So Natasha, what has fundamentally changed for your art practice?
Well, I think the first thing that springs to mind is that I have had more time and a little bit more money because I haven't been going out. So pretty much from March last year, I think that was the last time I went out to any pubs, restaurants, events, anything. And so I've been at home a lot, and I thought it might be quite fun. This was back in the summertime. I decided to use some of that spare cash and invest in some new art materials. And that is something that I probably wouldn't have done had we not been in this situation. So I spent several months really experimenting with different media and learning a lot of new things. And a whole new body of work has come from this. So if we hadn't had the pandemic, I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. And I feel like it's getting me onto the right path in my work, in my art practice. So yeah, that's quite interesting how things can happen, and it can change the course of your work and possibly career.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear how your art practice has changed in that way. And you're now doing a lot more work on paper than canvas. You know, you're still doing your canvas paintings, but you've almost got this whole new medium that you can now work in and create.
Yeah, I did always work on paper as well, but I'm finding that through my sketchbook work, because that's how it initially started out. I got myself a sketchbook and I started working in my sketchbook for really the first time in so many years, probably since I was in my teens or early 20s, because I used to have a sketchbook back then and I hadn't really used a sketchbook properly for so many years, because I would just sketch out whatever I was working on onto the paper or the canvas and just do that very loosely. I would sometimes have to do more detailed sketches for client work, but that was rare. But yes, I'm finding a new love of drawing and sketching and keeping a sketchbook and just working in that. And yeah, this is something that's come about because I've had a little bit more time. So yeah, I'm actually drawing now. So yeah, that's something completely new for me. I used to always paint on paper and now I'm drawing and I'm using mixed media. So yeah, I have the pandemic to thank for this. So there is some good that's come from it.
I was going to say, it's actually a positive thing that's come through. I mean, I know that you largely work online anyway, but I'm just thinking, you know, for people who will have relied on galleries or shows or exhibitions to share their work, the pandemic has kind of stopped or cancelled a lot of these kind of events. So
yeah, a lot of things have moved online, haven't they?
Like I say, you already work online, but I'm wondering if I guess that might be the way forward, really, to sell and share work.
I think one huge benefit of selling online is that the artist gets to deal directly with their customers, which you don't get if you're selling through a gallery. You get that, I guess, if you're doing craft fairs and things like that. But yeah, I love that direct contact with customers, and I think you have a little bit more control as well over how your work is presented, and just, I don't know, I really like the idea that it gives artists like independence, I suppose, so they don't have to rely on other people to sell their work. I mean, even though there was a move towards this before the pandemic, I think that more and more artists are going online now, whether that's to sell their work or whether it's to teach or something like that.
Yeah, I definitely think it's accelerated it, because I think, as you said, it was moving in that direction, but it's almost sped it up, the process. And I mean, I've seen that through, I have still a lot of contacts who do craft shows and craft fairs, and I see how they had to kind of get themselves online to do it, going live on Facebook, talking about their wares, having their wares in the background, and then basically selling through the camera. And I know for a lot of people, it's been a steep learning curve, and you have to almost kind of, really get used to just talking on camera. And I think that's what I've seen a lot of the craft fairs, or how they've kind of gone, is that people are having to sell in a different way.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And of course, you moved online with your workshops, didn't you, at the beginning of the pandemic, when we were first locked down?
Yeah, because I had a lot of in-person workshops in coffee shops, in different venues. Obviously, all of those were cancelled. And I basically had to then think, well, how am I going to connect with people, or how am I going to keep my classes going? And that's where I then turned to Zoom to work that all out. And it was very much having to work it out on the fly, so to speak, because you couldn't really wait around, because I felt like I just had to get on it, and people were looking for things to do.
Yes, this is another thing, isn't it? Don't you think that a lot of people have found that they've got more time, they're stuck at home more, and in some ways, I know that it's a funny situation, because even though you would think that people are struggling more with money, and I think there are an awful lot of people for whom this is the case, I've found that also people are finding they have a little bit of spare cash because they're not spending money on going out or going on holiday, and they're looking for things to do. They're looking for things that they can do from home. So I think there's probably been a huge surge in people like looking for online classes, for example, whether that's through Skillshare or something like that, or for example with you, where you do your workshops. It's a very personal kind of, not necessarily one-to-one, but how many people would you have doing a workshop with you online?
I mean, it wouldn't be that many. It would be like between 4 and 10. So,
But that's quite a nice number, isn't it?
yeah. And I do offer one-to-one art tuition.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, it's actually quite nice, actually, because I find one-to-one on Zoom a lot easier than, say, like a whole group of people, because you're not physically there in person, it's very hard to kind of just look over someone's shoulder, or just to read the room, or see how things are going with everyone. So I think that was the adjustment that I had to try to kind of adapt. And like, for instance, my setup, I had to change or rearrange my whole room in order to make sure I had a camera that could look down on what I was doing.
Oh, yeah,
and then
of course.
Another camera where I could look, people could see me face to face. So
yeah, that's technically that sounds quite complicated.
Yeah. And it was, to begin with, I was like, how am I going to do this? And I found that I could, the camera that I had could actually plug in, and with the right connection, I could then connect it up to Zoom and use it as a second camera. So that was good to find out. But all of those technical bits of info that you don't really know, I think that was a little bit stressful. But because of the pressure of thinking, well, I've got to do this, because actually if I don't do this, then I'm not actually going to be earning anything.
Yeah.
Because for me as well, the illustration side of stuff, projects that I had scheduled for that period were cancelled, were dropped. So I was in a position where, okay, I have got to make this work, otherwise I'm not going to be able to pay bills. So there was that kind of pressure just to get on with it.
Totally. The need to earn money.
Yeah.
It really does drive you on, and you find solutions because it's a necessity.
Yeah.
It's like, I have people who say to me sometimes, how do you get inspired every day? And how do you make sure you go into the studio? I'm like, because I need to earn money to pay bills.
Yeah.
I need to live.
Yeah.
So it's not a case of sitting around waiting for inspiration to strike or something like that. I have to literally just do it. And there are some days where I don't feel like working as much as others perhaps, but
Yeah.
you just have to. And it's like, in the situation that you were in, you have to find the solutions pretty quickly if you want to continue to make money. Because I think a lot of people found that the illustration jobs, like you said, they were the ones that were, they weren't coming in anymore. It went really quiet. And I've heard this quite a lot. But what has interested me is the fact that it seems that hasn't happened to people selling their art and their crafts online, because I was really worried at the beginning, thinking, oh no, nobody's going to want art in this kind of climate. It's just not going to happen. It's probably going to be really quiet. I'm going to have to prepare myself for a really quiet year. And actually, it's been quite the opposite. It's been really busy. And I was talking to Dominic about this, and he said that he thinks it's because people are spending a lot more time in their homes, and therefore they're buying nice things for their home. It's like you feather your nest. If you're there a lot, you're wanting your home to be a really cozy, lovely, beautiful place to be. And so I think that's really helped a lot of artists and crafters. And I do think actually that when things are really difficult in the world, as they are now, and everything seems very doom and gloom, people actually look to art to bring some hope, and it lifts their spirits. At least this is kind of what I've found.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to make, actually. And I think we probably would have seen it over this Christmas period. I mean, we're recording this a few days before Christmas Day, although you guys won't probably hear it until the new year.
Yeah.
But, I think there's been a lot of people who have bought from crafters, designer makers, artists. I know, Natasha, you've had just your recent shop update and you've sold out. And it's great to hear, because I think people are really supporting the artist community in that way.
I think there's been a big move towards shopping small this year. I mean, there's always been a bit of a campaign for this for the last few years, but I feel like this year people have really done it, and I know that I have as well. A lot of the presents I'm giving this year are things that I've bought from other artists or crafters.
Yeah. Going back to illustration stuff, things have picked up, and I think from about July, August, things were kind of picking up again. So, and I think, it's not as bad as it was, where basically you weren't hearing anything, but definitely I've got clients who are now commissioning work again, and it feels like things are kind of growing again. So that's
good to hear.
That's good.
Yeah.
I haven't, it's funny, in the last couple of months I haven't done any Zoom classes, but that's because I've been focused on the Domestica course, and if the Domestica course opportunity hadn't come about, I actually was thinking about, creating my own course or my own courses for online. So, but because that opportunity came about, I thought, well, let's do that. Let's jump on that and see how that goes.
So that was a really exciting experience that you may not have had if this year hadn't, turned out the way it did.
Yeah, I mean,
You
again,
just never know.
would I have had the time or thought, oh yeah, I could commit to doing that? It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's funny to think that actually this year I actually did that as well, because I guess it involved traveling, and a lot of people haven't been able to travel this year. So for me, I mean, I haven't been on holiday in quite a while, and yet the year of the pandemic, where everyone's on lockdown, I've actually travelled to Madrid. So for me, it feels quite funny. It's like, oh, I actually got to go away.
Yeah, you did. You paid the price though when you came back.
Yes, I had my quarantine for 14 days, but hopefully it'll be worth it.
I'm really excited to see this course.
Well, it's going to be combining analog and digital, so
Brilliant.
I'm excited.
This sounds so exciting. I can't wait to watch it. I'm going to be so proud if you pop up as an advert in front of my videos on YouTube, Mel.
I will let you know when it comes out.
Oh, please do.
Yeah, so I've definitely seen in the art community how people have been connecting more and more online, and actually it's been really exciting to see, like you've connected through online art clubs. I mean, you've started your own online art club as well.
Yeah.
It's quite exciting actually how people are making these connections, and I see that on Instagram as well, with people joining and collaborating with each other or encouraging each other, like the hashtags that we see, like walk to see, that is basically people going out drawing and then they hashtag it with that. That started with Helen Stevenson, who started that hashtag. But what it does is it builds the community around these kind of activities that we're doing, and it feels really positive. I really feel that there's a camaraderie around creating art, and that's really nice to see.
It definitely does feel like that. I think people, when they can't see each other in person, they need to have this connection to other people online. And so I think all of these hashtags and different little clubs and workshops and things, they've all kept us going. I know that with my own art club, making the content and connecting with the people who've become members has really lifted my spirits when I've had days where I felt quite, sort of depressed about all of this. And it's nice to know there are people out there with the same interests and who you can chat to about nerdy art things. It's really, really nice. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and it makes up for the fact that you can't just meet up in a group, but it's kind of helps us. It helps us get that connection.
Yeah, it does help. It isn't the same as seeing people in person. I got quite nostalgic thinking about when you and I met in the pub at the Hell Zephron Inn in Cornwall in October of last year. And when you posted, because you did that drawing for your project the other day, and you drew that in, and I was like, oh my goodness, back in the day when we could go out to different places and actually see people in person, and it seems like a different world. I hope we can get back to that world fairly soon, but it is good to have this, because I think everyone, they need to not feel so alone. They need to have those connections. And so doing all of these things, it does give you a positive focus as well. If you're learning new skills at the same time, I know that this has really kept me going this year, experimenting and learning new things. And it's been very exciting. I feel like I'm in this period of growth with my art that, I think I've probably never been in before. I really think this is the first time. I feel like I'm learning so much every single day, and it's brilliant.
That is really a good point to make, actually, because I don't think you sometimes grow unless you have restriction or something difficult that you need to work through, or even like that time, because you've basically had time to experiment, but because you've had to, in a way.
Exactly. I think if this year had been a year like any other, I would just be going along, coasting along, doing the same stuff that I've always done. I don't think this would have happened. I don't think I would have taken the time to, join Skillshare and Emma Carlisle's sketchbook club and, buy the art materials and really spend the time experimenting with them. I don't think I would have done it. So I'm guessing that all of these places like Skillshare and Domestica and Udemy, I would imagine they're seeing such an upsurge in people signing up.
Well, yeah, I definitely think so. Yeah. I know when I was at Domestica, I was talking to them about, well, how many courses they were planning to create or how many do they make. And they were like, well, they create about, or film, like 9 courses a week. So it's a lot of courses then that they're going to be releasing. And I think they definitely could see that their figures had dramatically increased over the time that this pandemic has been on. So
yeah, well, it's the smart thing to do because, it could so easily go the other way. There are so many businesses that are struggling at the moment. So it's great to hear, it's really positive to hear that there are some, they're finding the opposite.
yeah,
Because it does give you hope.
Exactly, and maybe that is something that is worthwhile pushing into. If you can do something online, or you can run a course online, or you can put together something, then go for it, because I think you won't be doing any damage to yourself by just trying it out and doing it and putting yourself out there. You'll learn a lot of new skills as well in terms of either video editing or being able to present yourself, or also working through your process. You gain a lot more through it than just not doing anything and just saying, oh, I can't do this at all.
I think it's good to, if you see that, the situation at the moment is a good time to do something like this, then now is the time. Grab the opportunity and do it. And I think that you can also find a way around things, because I, for example, wasn't comfortable with talking to the camera. So my YouTube channel is things that are filmed from kind of my perspective rather than me in front of the camera.
Yeah.
I show, what I'm looking at and what I'm doing, what I'm working on. And I think that you can find ways around. So if you feel like you're not that confident and like, oh, I could never have a YouTube channel or a podcast or whatever it is, I think you just give it a go and you will try, you will eventually find a way to do it that feels comfortable for you. But at the same time, it is good to push yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone. Because I know that from doing this podcast, which is something I was absolutely terrified of at the beginning, I actually feel like it's really helping me, for example, with the voiceovers on my videos. And so, I think it's really important to try new things. And at the moment, this is like the perfect opportunity for creatives to do something like this.
I am really excited to hear actually from our listeners what they've been up to and what they've been doing, and what things have changed for them, and how their practice has maybe grown or they've been pushed in a different direction. I'd love to hear what our listeners have been up to and what they're doing differently.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. So if any of you would like to share it with us, please leave a comment, because I'd love to read about that and find out what other people are up to as well.
So finally, I just want to say, what do you think will help us get through this time?
I think the thing that's helped me the most is just to accept that we are in this situation. Don't fight it. Just go, okay, how can I make this work to my advantage? What am I going to do when we come out of this? What will I have learnt? What new things will I be doing? And so I've just really focused on experimenting with my art and pushing that forward in a new direction, pushing myself out of my comfort zone, recording all of this and sharing it with other people through YouTube and my art club. And that has actually given me the positive focus I need. I think you need to concentrate on something that's going to take you out of your own thoughts sometimes and just get you focusing on creating.
I think that's great bit of advice there. And I know I've also found that when I embrace the situation, even if it's just annoying and difficult, it's far better to just go with it rather than try to resist and kind of say, no, I don't want anything to do with it. No, I'm just going to hide in my room and and not do anything. You're going to get far more out of a situation if you can just embrace it and see what opportunities are there and work around them. I mean, we're creatives. We should be able to think creatively, think how can we adapt or how can we change?
I think this is the thing, you have to just accept it and then adapt and just look at it as investing in your future. So when we, come out of this, you may have, with this time where we've been locked down and unable to do very much, if you've learnt some really valuable new skills, that could take you in a whole new career path, couldn't it? I think it's about having a little bit of control back because we all feel a bit out of control at the moment.
Yeah, and that is something that we talked about in another episode. You can't control the situation, but you can control how you respond.
Yeah, and I think you just have to respond positively, look to the future and spend that time that you've got just learning something new, and it will make you excited for each day as well, because that's how I feel at the moment. Even when I've had days where I felt a bit down, I've been like, oh, it's like that little bit of excitement, like, what can I experiment with today? What am I going to do? Which course am I going to watch? And, I love the fact that I'm always learning. I think that's really important for creatives to not rest on their laurels and always be curious, always be open to learning more. And I think you do that as well a lot. You do that all the time with your various ventures.
Yeah, I'm always kind of thinking about something and I'm like, oh, I'll just try that.
Yeah.
Give that a go. And sometimes it doesn't always work, but at the same time, I always find that I gain more from giving it a go than not.
Oh, yeah. And if you never gave it a go, nothing would work. Nothing would come of anything because you're not even giving it the chance. So I think now is the time more than ever to just go for it. If there's something you've always wanted to do, you've always had a dream to learn something or do something or start your own business, I would say just go for it.
Okay, Natasha, what are we going to be looking at or chatting about next time on the podcast?
We're going to be talking about finding your own artistic voice and style.
Yes, that's going to be a really interesting topic because I think so many artists kind of struggle with this or ask the question, how can I find my style? So I think it's going to be really interesting to talk about it and find out from each other how we found our artistic style. Okay, thanks so much, guys, for listening again to our podcast episodes this week. We really hope that you found it helpful, especially if you are struggling during this pandemic. But we just encourage you to see it as an opportunity and go for it. Find us as usual over on YouTube, searching for Creative Catchup, or over on Instagram, creative_catchup. And don't forget, leave us your comments or feedback. We would love to connect with you further. Until next time, stay creative, stay positive.